Good afternoon, and thanks for those of you who have joined. I'm going to wait a few more minutes before we get rolling here to give everyone a chance to get logged in, because I think we're right here at 1:30 on the dot. A few more joining. Hello, thank you. All right, hope everyone's having a good day so far. I can hardly believe it's almost the end of July. It's just flying by. Fantastic. All right. Well, I know it's still right at 1:30, but I'll go ahead and start with some of the preliminaries so we can get started. And I also apologize, I need to grab my phone so I don't keep you too long here. I believe we go until 2:40 today. So hope you're enjoying the Membo Expo so far. I know that the team at the San Diego Bar always puts on a great event. So I hope you're really enjoying it. All right, a few more coming in. Welcome, thank you for joining us. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Kristin Tyler. I am an attorney in Las Vegas, Nevada, so not too far from you, although I really wish I was in San Diego right now. It is so hot here, it's just unbearable. But we're gonna try to sneak away for one more getaway to California if we can, if the beaches are open and if we can find a good Airbnb. So anyways, so glad to connect with all of you folks from San Diego. In addition to being an attorney, my background is in estate planning and probate, but in addition to that, I'm also one of the co-founders of a company called LAWCLERK. And hopefully, if you haven't heard of it by now, maybe you Googled it before you joined the session, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my PowerPoint pulled up now. It looks like we have quite a few folks here with us. Okay, so go live here. So our topic today is how to leverage freelance attorneys and tech to next level your firm. And that's me, Kristin. Hopefully, I think it still shows the little tiny video screen, but we'll focus on the PowerPoint on conversation there. My email is there, ktyler@lawclerk.legal. I'll give it again at the end. If you have any questions, I would be happy to connect with you one-on-one to answer those and get you taken care of. But so as I mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of a company called LawCLERK. And in a nutshell, what we do is we help busy attorneys connect with our network of freelance lawyers for project-based work. It's really cool because it allows you to get the help you need when you need it without having to pay someone full-time. You just pay project by project. And I'll go into that a little bit more later on, but if you're curious, our site is lawclerk.legal. Go check us out and I'd love to tell you some more. So I'm gonna guess that if you're here today, you maybe are the type of attorney that you started your own firm. And for anyone who started their own firm, you know that when you start that firm and you launch, you do all of the things. And that's just part of starting any new business, whether it's a law firm or something else. You're gonna wear every hat, you're gonna learn every job, do it yourself before you build your team and you start delegating and outsourcing those tasks to others on your team. So, you know, I like to joke that when you're in the early days of any new business, you drink the coffee and then you do all the things. And that's just what this little funny thing was. And I've been there. I left a large firm and started my own boutique firm. And so I know that when you're starting out, you're answering the phone, you're doing the intakes, you're doing the marketing, you're writing the blogs for the website. Oh, plus you're doing all the legal work too, because you're the lawyer. So it's a lot, but it can be exhilarating until you get to the point where it's exhausting and then you need some help to continue growing and helping those clients. So the moral of the story here gets summed up very nicely from Kermit the Frog when he says, you can do all of the things some of the time, and you can do some of the things all of the time, but you can't do all of the things all of the time. And it boils down to the fact that if you are committed to growing your firm, increasing revenue, and helping more clients, you're going to need to get the help that you need to do that. And I'm a pretty firm believer that that help can come in the form of either technology and or team, and we'll talk about that today. But first, I'm going to get up on my soapbox for a minute. And I want to challenge you to think about something not legal in order to help illustrate this point about getting help in order to grow and build your business. So when I think of one of the most successful entertainers in the world, someone who's just killing it in all regards, who's uber successful, I can't help but think of Beyonce, okay? And hopefully you know who Beyonce is, or else this probably won't make much sense. But you know, Beyonce is an incredibly talented singer, entertainer. She's got great style. But take a step back and think about how far do you think Beyonce would be if she insisted on doing all of these things herself, if she insisted on doing her own hair and makeup, her own nails, her designing her costumes and making them, which I think she may have done early on, but she surely doesn't anymore. Think about how far she'd be if she insisted that she had to write every single song and she had to sing every lyric and backup. If she insisted on negotiating the contracts with the venues for each of her concerts, or if she insisted on designing the ticket stubs, you know, if she did all of the things by herself, she would not be nearly as far and nearly as successful as she is today. She's really just a world dominating force today. So in a lot of ways, I think that we as lawyers can channel our inner Beyonce to push ourselves further than we ever thought we could, but we have to open up our minds and our to-do lists to get the help that we need in order to get ourselves there. So hopefully today you can start to get some ideas of ways that you can channel your own inner Beyonce to take your firm to the next level. Okay, so how do you get the help that you need? Well, as you probably gathered from the title of this program, it's going to come, I think, largely from team and technology. Let's look at technology first, and I'm going to be the first one to say that I am by no means a technology guru. I have been using Zoom for years before the entire world discovered it, and I definitely have a few things that are automated in my law practice that I'm pretty proud of, but I'm definitely not like a major tech nerdy. So if you're really big into the tech side of this, definitely encourage you to explore those tools. But you know, by and large, when you think about the legal industry, we have a bit of a reputation for being dinosaurs, of being slow to adopt and slow to change when it comes to trying out new technology. But legal is becoming more and more competitive. And in the current environment where a lot of lawyers and clients prefer to interact from the comfort of their own home, it's forcing us to find new ways to get work done. And so if you don't believe me that lawyers tend to be a bit of dinosaurs when it comes to adopting technology, then I have a few examples for you, okay? Think about the telephone. Can you imagine a day in your life as a lawyer without a telephone now? Well, back over 100 years ago, about 150 years ago, 130 years ago, you know, lawyers were very low on the list of professionals who were adopting the use of telephones in the New York, New Jersey area. I thought this was pretty interesting. The majority were doctors and then saloons, followed by stables and last lawyers in this little list. So that was interesting to show how historically we've been a little bit like dinosaurs. Exhibit B, email. Email came out in 1983, but the ABA didn't approve it for almost 16 years later, and the ABA didn't bless law firms having websites until 2010. So, you know, we were a little bit late coming into adoption of tools like emails and websites, which again are now so mainstream. It's hard for us to imagine running our businesses without them. So what's the moral of the story here? Well, I think the moral of the story here is that technology is our friend. It allows us to do a lot of things and to do them easier. We can communicate with clients easier, automate routine tasks. Technology can help you get paid faster, which was great. In fact, just 5 minutes before I got on here, I had a vendor I was working with, they emailed me an invoice wanting me to mail them a check, and I said, hey, can't you give me a link to pay this online? I don't mind paying the processing fee. I would rather just get it done that way. And our clients in legal are the same way. Technology can help you with document drafting. There's a lot of really cool tools like to automate contracts and other routine documents. That way you can customize them for each client. You can streamline your law firm management with practice management software. Technology can also help you work anywhere, anytime, which is more important now than ever before. And it can do so much more. So definitely want to encourage you to embrace the fact that technology is your friend. But in addition to technology, your team. There are, at the end of the day, always going to be roles for human people to do in your law firm. And so we can't underestimate the importance of building your team and finding the right people to help you grow and help more clients as you continue to progress throughout the stage of your law firm. And so when you look at any law firm, there's typically kind of a set list of roles that law firms are looking for help with. They're looking for help with an assistant. Maybe you need a receptionist to help weed out some of those phone calls so that only the good ones get to you. Typist. I talk to a lot of lawyers that just say, I hate typing. I don't want to bang it out on the keyboard. I want some help with that. office managers or marketing managers, of course, paralegals and other attorneys. So there's a lot of different roles that you might think of when you're trying to figure out what type of help do you need in your firm. It might depend on the task you're trying to get off your to-do list and onto someone else, and then you got to figure out which of these spots to fill. So the cool thing is that with each of these roles, of course, there's the option to hire the traditional hire, either part-time or full-time in office, that you work with one-on-one, and that can be a great solution depending on where you're at with your firm. There's also options for all of these different roles that would allow you to outsource and collaborate with someone in a virtual manner, where maybe you're working with a marketing manager who's on the East Coast, even though we're on the West Coast, or you're working with a typist who maybe is even overseas. And there's numerous virtual paralegal and attorney services as well. For purposes of my program today, I'm mainly going to focus on getting you help that you need to get substantive legal work done. So I'm going to be talking about the last category, lawyers, whether you need an associate in the office or you need a virtual associate of some sort. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. And part of the analysis that goes into whether you want to make a traditional hire or you want to go the virtual route and work with someone that way boils down to weighing the pros and cons. There's pros and cons to hiring, as there is to everything in life. And so some of the pros when you're looking at the traditional in-office hire is, you know, it's nice to have another attorney around that can meet with clients and go to court. If that's what you need help with, if you need someone to actually interact and engage with your clients, then an in-office hire is probably going to work out better for you. Plus, it's nice to have someone to have coffee with once in a while and just talk about cases and you know, shoot the breeze. Some of the cons of that traditional in-office hire of an associate attorney can be high overhead. You know, you have to pay them, even if you're slow, you've got to keep paying them. And so that's a big consideration is the expense, and that really intimidates a lot of people from making a hire, even though they desperately need the help. I've talked to way too many lawyers, especially in the last few weeks, that have said they're not getting paid because they're still paying everyone else on their payroll, and that can only be sustainable so long. Plus, I hear from lawyers that, you know, the traditional in-office hire can lead to some drama occasionally and inevitably some turnover. I've talked to so many lawyers that are sick of the cycle of hiring someone, training them, spending time with them, investing all of that time with them, only for them to leave and become oftentimes a competitor. So those are all factors to consider. The good news is that there are more and more virtual options than ever before. You know, the pros of hiring a virtual associate or a freelance lawyer, whatever you want to call it, it means the same thing. Number one, you're only going to pay them when you're hiring them to do work, when you're actually needing help. So if you slow down, you don't still have to pay them. You're only going to pay them when they're actually doing work. And that's a really great thing to keep your overhead low and make it a little less intimidating to collaborate with another lawyer when you need that help. Oftentimes, another pro is that you can tap into a really experienced attorney who's doing freelance work. Oftentimes they may even have more years of experience and expertise than you do, which is pretty cool. And of course, subject matter expertise. If you need to find someone who knows a different type of law than what you primarily practice, it can allow you to collaborate with them, which is really exciting. But of course, I think the big pro with anything virtual is giving it a try. It's a little bit intimidating. How does it work? What if something goes wrong? There's all of those big question marks that can sometimes loom over our heads. So I hope to try to eliminate some of those for you today and make it seem like a more approachable, accessible option. So in terms of the virtual collaboration with a freelance lawyer, you know, I come across some pretty common misperceptions. So I want to try to bust a few of those first. You know, one of the misperceptions I hear from attorneys who are thinking about outsourcing something to a freelance lawyer, but they're not quite sure, is they say, well, who are these freelancers and why can't they get real jobs? And I always kind of laugh at that, because what does that even really mean? What's a real job in legal? The cool thing about a law degree is that you really can do just about anything you want. I'm a big believer in that. But what I can tell you after working with and meeting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of freelance lawyers over the last few years working with LawCLERK is that, in my experience, freelance lawyers are lawyers who are very intentionally choosing a different career path. They are very intentionally choosing not to have the traditional law firm job because they want other things in life, whether they want freedom to travel, they don't want to work 70 hours a week. A lot of them are taking time away from a more traditional law firm career to take care of sick parents, elderly parents, or young children. We have a lot of military spouses that do freelance work. We also have a lot of law professors that have really deep expertise in their particular subject area that do freelance work from time to time, or in the summers when they don't have classes. So freelancers are just as talented, and maybe in some other ways even more you know, cutting edge than we are, just because they're charting their own path and choosing their own careers. So that's that misperception. Another misperception that I encounter is people say, oh, I thought about outsourcing that, but I'm just going to do it myself. It would take too much time to delegate it. I hear that one all the time, and I see it on social media a lot too. Let's break that down a little bit. So let's say that you have a huge project that's sitting on your desk, staring at you, and needs to get done. Maybe it's a motion, or maybe it's an appellate brief. We'll say it's an appellate brief. And it's on a case that you've lived, breathed, you know, it's been your entire focus for the last few years. So you're really deep into it. You know, an appellate brief, yeah, is a huge project. Maybe that's going to take someone 20, 25, 30 hours to write that brief. But maybe it takes you an hour or even 2 hours to tee up that freelance lawyer to go in and write the brief, to give them the documents they need to review, to talk through the specifics of the case, of your theories that you want to address in the appeal. So if you spend, say, even 2 hours teeing them up to get them ready to work on it, they go work on it for 25 or 30 hours, you're still saving yourself 25 or 30 hours. That's like what? 3 work days that you could be spent doing other things. You could be spending that time working with new clients, going to court, taking other depositions on other cases. It's really going to free up your time. So even if it takes you a couple of hours at the onset to get it going, a couple of hours at the end to review it and edit it, it's still a huge time saver if it's saving you 30 hours. Now that's a big project example. Let's think of it something smaller. You know, maybe you have a simple research memo that you need to get, you know, a client has a question and you need to research an answer for them. Maybe on that one, you take 15 minutes to give instructions to the freelance lawyer. They go out, they research it for 2 or 3 hours, get it back to you, and then you spend a half hour reviewing and digesting their findings. Again, as you're still saving many hours of time to free up your time to do other things that are higher and better use of your time. So try to keep that perspective when you find yourself saying, oh, it's just going to take too much time, I'll do it myself. The last really common misperception that I hear from lawyers is that they say, well, you know, my clients, they want me to do all their work, okay? Let's break that one down. When a client hires a lawyer, they're hiring your guidance, they're hiring your experience and your expertise. They trust you to be the quarterback for their case, okay? We're gonna go with a sports analogy now. They want you to be there for all the big plays. They want you at the negotiation table when you're making deals. They want you at the deposition or the trial. But the behind the scenes work, they trust that you're going to captain that to get it done. And whether that means you yourself are doing the legal research, writing the motions, or if someone on your team is who you trust, either way, they really are trusting you to guide the case through where it needs to go to get the best result. And if that involves you delegating and getting help from others on your team, in my experience, that's what clients want more than you burning the midnight oil night after night, doing all of that tedious work yourself. So there's some common misperceptions, and hopefully I've at least put a little dent in some of those for you if you've ever caught yourself thinking some of these things. So there's a lot of reasons why outsourcing makes sense, even more so now than ever with everything that we're going on in our world and our economic environment. But, you know, growing your firm, making more money, minimizing your own stress, and collaborating with expertise are the top reasons for sure. Let's go into some of those a little bit more in detail and evaluate some of the benefits of working with freelance lawyers. And again, you could call them freelance lawyers, virtual associates, whatever you want to call them, it's the same thing. Okay, benefit number 1, make more money. Without a doubt, choosing to work with a freelance lawyer on a project-by-project basis is going to keep your overhead lower, keep you more agile so that you can respond to changes in the economy, changes from your client or your caseload, and it's just really going to hopefully result in more money in your own pocket at the end of the year. I think it's just a great solution if you're trying to find a way to get more work done without you having to do it and still bring more revenue into your firm. We're going to break that down with a dollars and cents example later on, so I don't want to spend too much time on that now. Okay. Benefit number 2, expertise, and I've tapped into this one a little bit. working and collaborating with a freelance lawyer can allow you to get that bit of knowledge that you need on unique cases when it comes up. So for example, we recently had a family law attorney in Texas who had a divorce case, but the divorcing couple happened to own an airplane and an airplane hangar. And she needed to collaborate with an attorney familiar with aviation law to figure out how to approach that unique asset. And so through our system, she was able to connect and get that expertise. That's just one of any number of examples I could give you of where you can collaborate with another lawyer who has expertise for that one matter. You know, back when I worked at a larger regional law firm, it was great. We had about 60 lawyers, and if I had unique issues come up in tax or gaming or whatever, I could walk down the hall, literally walk down the hall and get an immediate answer from the other attorney in my firm who had that expertise. Now with platforms like LawCLERK, it allows you to do the same way in that virtual experience where you can connect with another lawyer who knows that area of law to get that immediate answer and keep your case moving. Another big benefit to working with freelance lawyers in this outsourced capacity is that it allows you to remain really flexible. You get the help you need when you need it without having to pay someone all the time. I've talked to way too many lawyers who are killing themselves to make payroll, but yet their associates aren't busy all the time. They catch them surfing Facebook or watching sports or whatever. So this is really a better option for you to get the help you need when you need it. Another example that I love to cite too that kind of ties in with the previous benefit too of getting expertise is we have a top user who is basically a general practitioner. She's in a smaller town in the Midwest. And on any given week, she could be dealing with family law on Monday, a criminal issue on Tuesday, a real estate deal on Wednesday, maybe a bankruptcy on Thursday, and writing a will and trust on Friday. So she sees a little bit of it all. There really aren't a lot of options for her to hire someone in a rule setting like that, but through the beauty of technology, she is able to build a team of freelance lawyers for each of those areas of law. And so now when she gets a new family law matter in, she can go right to someone on her family law team and say, hey, here's the information. I need you to draft the complaint for divorce. And oh, by the way, why don't you go ahead and tee up the initial request for discovery as well while you're working on the case that we were just ready to start rolling. And so, this allows her to have a team of really about 15 virtual associates that she can just hire when she needs help in each different area. She can be really flexible. That way, if she's getting more work in one area, less in another, she can still get the help she needs when she needs it. And it's just a really cool example of how people are using tools like LawCLERK to get the help they need. All right, benefit number 4. Who hates the billable hour? I know that lawyers have a love-hate relationship with the billable hour. And so if you've been thinking about ditching the billable hour and moving to minimum fees, alternative fees, things like that, working with freelance lawyers can really build into that type of a fee structure very nicely. For example, a lot of platforms and systems and freelancers will agree to do different project-based work on flat fees. You can negotiate that with them. All of our work is done on a flat fee. And so if you're then paying them on a flat fee, that builds nicely into if you are trying to craft a flat fee for the client, it just goes hand in hand. And I really believe that with everything we're going through right now, clients just like us have a lot of economic uncertainty, and we're going to be getting a lot more requests from clients to come in and offer minimum fees or flat fees, different things like that, to give them some certainty as to what they're spending to get that legal issue resolved. And so if you are worried about then having to get help to staff those cases, obviously working with a freelance lawyer on a flat fee arrangement by project is a great way to make those go hand in hand. Another benefit, if you haven't already gathered it, is that working with a freelance lawyer does help you keep your costs lower, which in turn you can pass along to clients and make you more competitive. It's in today's day and age, we've got to be nimble. We've got to be really flexible and agile with our overhead and our own expenses so that we can compete for those clients who are very sensitive to those things, or not even sensitive, but just smart about it. They're smart consumers, and you can't blame them. And definitely working with someone in an outsourced capacity versus a full-time traditional hire is a much more cost-competitive decision. And last but not least, certainly a big benefit to getting help from freelance lawyers is that hopefully it will improve your own work-life well-being. You'll see that I have the word balance there struck through. I hate the word balance. I could do a whole separate session just on that. I think balance implies that things are in equilibrium and equal all the time, and there's just no way any lawyer can ever achieve that. I'm a lawyer, I'm married to a lawyer, I work with lawyers, got lawyers in my family, like I know this. There's always going to be a different area of life that's pulling on you a little bit more, whether it's home, it's work, your health, whatever it may be. And so I think the important thing to strive for is more of a mindset of well-being and trying to figure out the best way to make all these competing pressures work together. And certainly if you've been burning the midnight oil, working too many hours, if you're exhausted, then you're in the fast track to burnout. And that's not going to help you or your clients in the long term. And so if that sounds like what you've been going through right now, I absolutely want to encourage you to get the help you need. Give outsourcing a try to ease up your to-do list so that you can take care of yourself and get out there and enjoy some of the things you enjoy doing outside of the office. So that's definitely a huge benefit. Okay, so I know this is not an ethics CLE, but definitely one of the big questions we always get when it comes to outsourcing and working with freelance lawyers is it ethical? And so I want to go through that quickly. And so let me give an overview here. If this is the topic that you are particularly interested in, I want you to know that we have resources available on our website, lawclerk.legal. If you go down into the, oh gosh, we just changed the website. I'm not sure where it is now. There is an ethics white paper. If you can't find it on the site, email me and I will get it to you. But we do have a state-by-state, really in-depth overview of the ethics rules. Another issue that is particularly important to California is that the Dynamex case. And so I know that was a really hot topic for about a year and a half in California, and it left a lot of lawyers thinking that they could not outsource to freelance lawyers. But with the enactment of AB 5 last year, it's like a time warp now. I'm like, when did that happen? That was last year. We have several blogs on our website. If you're concerned about Dynamex, go find a blog and read about it. But the short answer to that is that there was a carve out in AB 5 that says specifically that none of the gig worker employee provisions apply to freelance lawyers. They were expressly exempted along with other professions. So Dynamex is not an impediment for you getting the help you need from freelance lawyers. If you want to know more about it, go read about it on the blog, or again, if you can't find it, email me or comment here. I'm happy to get that information to you. Okay, so when we look through the ethics, the couple of key things we want to look at. Let's see, where's my slide? It's not moving. Sorry. Okay. Here's a quick rundown of the key ethics rules that we'll take a look at. And so the first one, of course, is the big rule that we're always worried about, confidentiality and protecting our clients' confidential information. So the model rules that cite to this are Rule 1.6. And, you know, basically the rule is that lawyers can't reveal confidential information related to the representation of the client to others. There are instances in the comments to that where it says a lawyer is impliedly authorized to make those disclosures when appropriate in carrying out the representation. For example, lawyers in a firm may, in the firm's practice, disclose to each other information that they need to take care of the work for the client. And this, in turn, extends to a freelance lawyer working under your direct supervision. So, yes, you do still have your duty to protect confidences, the same as you would working with associates or other members of your own firm. What I can tell you is that the beauty of working with freelance lawyers, number one, they're already bound to their own underlying duty of confidentiality and ethics. Number two, platforms like LawCLERK have a built-in confidentiality agreement in every single project. But number three, if you have a particularly sensitive case, there's a couple of things you could do. You could require your own NDA on top of what we require to really secure that freelance lawyer's confidence on that matter. I also see a lot of times where attorneys will come in though, and especially for something like a research memo or a basic agreement, you can get a name like Jane Doe. They don't need to know the client's actual name. They can prepare the document, do the research without knowing a lot of those specifics in order to protect those confidences even more. So be creative when you're safeguarding your client's confidences. And again, there's a lot more information on the website if you would like to see that. Okay, next up, the unauthorized practice of law, and this is the big one. So, Rule 5.5 prevents non-lawyers, as well as lawyers not properly licensed in a given jurisdiction, from providing legal services in that jurisdiction, absent the supervision of a properly licensed lawyer. So that's the kicker there. The trick here is really to figure out what work you need help with, okay? If, and I will apologize, I don't know the status of courts in California. If someone wants to comment and tell me, you can. But, you know, in the past, I've talked to so many California lawyers, especially litigators, who need help with court appearances because they can't make it to 3 different court appearances in 3 different counties on the same day. So obviously, if you're hiring appearance counsel to go make appearances for you, that definitely requires the freelance lawyer to engage in the practice of law, which means they would have to be licensed in California to make those appearances on behalf of you and your client. Now, on the flip side, if you're hiring someone to write a bankruptcy motion or an immigration motion, you know, those are federal practices. Or if you need someone to do something like research and draft a motion that then you're going to review and supervise, that opens the door because those lawyers would not be directly engaging in the practice of law. And so the beauty of that is that then you can connect with a freelance lawyer who might be in a different jurisdiction but has deep expertise on that issue so that you can collaborate and get that work done. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on, but that is the beauty of keeping the freelance lawyer working closely under your supervision and limiting the scope of what they're doing allows you to collaborate with other people. That being said, there's a gabillion freelance lawyers in California. So if you're concerned about it and you would rather collaborate with someone who is licensed in California, have no fear. We have a lot of freelance lawyers in the state of California, and I expect that will only grow in the months ahead. The next big issue to keep in mind is oversight, okay? Oversight is key. You're still the boss even when you are delegating a project to a freelance lawyer. The rules on this are Model Rule 5.1 and 5.3. The big takeaway here is that when you delegate something and outsource it, you can't forget about it. You have to stay on top of it and monitor the work of the freelance lawyer. You should expect to spend time giving them information to begin the work. You should definitely expect to spend your own time reviewing and editing that work on the inside of the project. And so I know that a lot of us would love to delegate certain pieces of work and just forget about it, have it magically be done. You have to remain engaged and properly supervise that work. All right, this one's important too. Our duty of competency. This is from Rule 1.1, and that says a lawyer shall provide competent representation to a client. This competent representation requires the legal knowledge, skill, thoroughness, and preparation reasonably necessary for the representation. So what does this rule mean in terms of outsourcing work to freelance lawyers? Basically, it means stay in your lane, okay? You shouldn't outsource what you don't know or what you don't want to learn. So let's have a couple of examples there. Let's say you are a longtime criminal defense attorney. Your entire career has been doing criminal defense attorney, and you're brilliant in the courtroom, you can do trials, all that stuff, awesome. But let's say you have a client comes back to you years later, and now they've invented something, and there's a big IP litigation. IP work is pretty far outside of criminal work. Yes, some of the trial strategies might be kind of similar, but it's pretty different. So rather than take the case on and try to collaborate with freelance lawyers to work it through, that would probably be something where it's far enough outside of your core area of competency that you would be better off either referring the work elsewhere or co-counseling with an IP litigator to learn it if you were interested in learning that and maybe adding that to your own practice area. Now, so that's one where the work is probably a little bit too far outside of your lane that you probably shouldn't take it on. But let's say you are a family law attorney and you help a client with a divorce, and then they come back a couple of years later and now they've bought a house and they're going to lease it out to a friend, and they need a lease agreement. That's a basic enough type of legal document that pretty much any lawyer could prepare a lease. You just may not have a form. So that's a great time to collaborate with a freelance lawyer to have them prepare the form that then, of course, you'll review or go over with the client to make sure it has all those core terms in it as far as, you know, the term of the lease, the security deposit, if they can have pets or not, all those types of things. So be mindful of staying in your lane and safeguarding that duty of competency. Okay, so now here's one of the most exciting slides in the program, at least I think it's exciting. One of the biggest questions we get is, can lawyers make money with outsourcing, okay? And the overwhelming answer is yes. And this is really a game changer for any of you solo attorneys or small firms. The big rule to keep in mind in here is Model Rule 1.5. And what Model Rule 1.5 says is that you can charge a freelance lawyer's work to your client at a reasonable market rate. Okay, the ABA goes into more detail on this in their formal opinion 00-420, in which they agree with the U.S. Supreme Court that attorneys may bill the services of contract lawyers or freelance lawyers to their clients at prevailing market rates, so long as the rates satisfy Rule 1.5's reasonableness requirement. So what does this mean? This means that solo attorneys and small firms can outsource work and give it to freelance lawyers the same way that big firms have with their legions of associates for many years. You can pay the freelance lawyers a rate that you agree to for their work, but you can then charge that work to your client at a reasonable market rate. So this means that you can not only get the help you need to get work done, you also can open up another revenue stream to bring some additional profit into your firm. And that is a total game changer, I think. So let's make this come to life with a little bit of math, okay? Let's see what this looks like. Okay, so let's do the math. Let's say you have a motion for summary judgment that you need to prepare, and you've written 4,000 motions for summary judgment in your career, and you don't really want to write another one, nor do you have time. So you find a freelance lawyer, and they agree to write that motion for you, and you're going to pay them $1,000 flat fee. Okay? They will still, or they should at least, if they work through LawCLERK, they will still track their time drafting that motion, and they're going to come back to you and say, okay, here's your motion. Let me know if you want any edits. I worked 8.5 hours. Great. So what these ethics rules say is that you can bill that 8.5 hours back to your client at a reasonable market rate. Let's say the reasonable market rate is $200, which all of you in San Diego are probably laughing at that example. I should probably add like another zero behind that because I know your rates are higher there. But for easy math, 8.5 times 200 is $1,700. So you're going to bill the client $1,700 for that draft motion. But keep in mind, you only paid the freelancer $1,000. So that is bringing an additional $700 of revenue into your firm. And I think that's just really exciting. And think about, if you did this once a week, think about if you did this 4 times a month, 8 times a month, 50 times a year. This really could help you flow a lot more work through your practice and bring substantially more revenue to really help you hit those goals you've been wanting to make financially. So I think that's super exciting. Okay, so I know part of this presentation was to be a product demo, is what I understood from the bar when I set this up. So now I'm going to take a pause here, and we're going to go out into the interwebs to show you what this looks like. So I'm going to stop the share for a moment. We're going to go over to our demo site and come back on, and I'm going to walk you guys through what it looks like to work on a site like LawCLERK. Just so you know, we are at the near end. I believe that we have got approval from the San Diego Bar to be a part of your member benefits. So there will be some announcements on that coming up, and some special offers for you to give us a try, and I've got one for you today too. So let's say you're starting to think, okay, this makes sense. I need to get some help from freelance lawyers. What does it look like in the real life? What does this mean? Totally get that. Let me give you a walkthrough. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the live site is lawclerk.legal, and that's where I am now. And we just revamped this homepage a few weeks ago, and I love it. There's a lot of good information on here, some user testimonial videos. You don't want to watch any of those videos with that girl, though. No, I'm kidding. And so, yeah, a ton of great resources here. The blog also, where I mentioned the Dynamics information, if you want to look that up. But also, I really want to highlight here, if you go and click on Attorney Resources, I'm up here at the very top, Attorney Resources. This is just gold. So if you primarily focus your area of practice on one area, you're going to want to come down and find, we have all these different guides by area of law. So if you do appellate work, bankruptcy, criminal, whatever, click into one of these. I'm going to open the family law guide. And what these are extensive lists of sample projects. So we go through, these are actual projects that went through the site. So this was a motion to continue trial. The flat fee paid was $500. This is what the attorney used to describe the work, and the rating at the end. This is the rating that the attorney left after the work was completed. So whatever your practice area is, we've got all of the big practice areas up, and we're working on adding more of these guides If there's one that you want that you don't see here, email me and I could always even send you some examples directly, but these guides are just fantastic to give you some ideas on how to price these projects. Also, would definitely invite you to check out our recent podcast, which just launched. We're really excited about it. It's talking about the ways that a lot of different attorneys are living and practicing law in very exciting and different ways, and highlighting them. So our podcast is up on all the normal places you find podcasts. So go subscribe and check that out too. Okay. My computer's giving me a hard time. There we go. So now I am in our, what we call our demo account for LawCLERK. Okay. So at the onset, maybe you're wondering, well, how much does this cost every month? Let me get that out of the way first off. There's no fee to sign up for LawCLERK. There is no monthly fee. So just to have an account with us, have access to it when you need it, costs nothing. So whether you use us once a week, once a quarter, you're not going to be paying any sort of monthly fee. And so definitely, if this is something you're interested in, I would challenge you to go in, create your account. You would do that on the main web page. Oh my gosh, my little Zoom header is in my way. You would click join, and you would say, you put your name, and then either I want to hire if you need to get help, or I want to work if you're interested in doing some freelance work. And we welcome both. And we have a lot of attorneys that have both types of accounts. And it's really interesting because you can see when they're slow, they come on and pick up some freelance work. When things get busy and they land a new case, then they will come on and get some help with the research and motion writing and things like that. Also, I'd just like to highlight, since I've got your attention, hopefully for the moment, that when you do create your account, one of the steps, the last step, is to submit a selfie. And yes, I just said selfie of you with your driver's license. So you get your driver's license, hold it by your face, snap a picture, and you can either text or email it to us. The reason for that is this is an attorney-to-attorney site. We can't have the consumers on here. This is the way we weed out those consumers. As without a doubt, as you can probably imagine, a couple times a month we have someone logging in who wants help with their case and they want to hire a lawyer directly, and we're not that service. We are attorney-to-attorney. So that's the way we make sure it's really the attorney registering for the account, not just someone pretending to be them. And then we use the ID to go in and make sure that you are a licensed attorney based on your name on your ID. So just a heads up that that's the last step of registering. Once you register, you are going to have access to what we call your dashboard. And this is what you see here. And this is where you can do a lot of different things. I always like to highlight that over here at the top left corner, the menu bar. This is where it's got a lot of the management types things for the site. You can edit your profile, add a payment, manage your notifications, etc. So if you're ever trying to find something on our site, it's probably up there in the menu bar. But chances are, if you're going to make an account, you're probably making it because you want to have some help and you want to get started. So up here, this plus button is what I call the Get Started button. And let's go in and let's create a new project. So each piece of work that goes through the site is called a project. So, you know, if you're using this to do work on a whole long case, then you're going to want to phase out the lifespan of that case into different projects. So maybe initially it's a demand letter, and then when you don't settle, it's a complaint, and then it's some discovery work, and then it's some motions, and then it's, you know, the trial brief or the settlement agreement or the appellate brief. You want to project or piece those out in different phases depending on the type of work you're gonna get done. But it's 3 steps to post a project, and this first screen is really pretty. We'll put motion for summary judgment. Okay, so you give it a simple title. You'd say how long you want to take applications from freelance lawyers. You would set the deadline. You know, maybe the deadline is August 7th. I always say yes, get an initial draft and maybe get that like the week before, so that then you have time to give the freelance lawyer some input, just like you would an associate at your firm, to tell them what needs to be edited. You're going to set a flat fee price for that. And again, we can help with that. One rule of thumb I have is, you know, ballpark, how many hours of work do you think this is? I think most people have an idea based on practicing for a long time how many hours something's going to be. So let's say you think it might take upwards of 10 hours to write this motion. Cool. We're seeing people pay freelance lawyers usually somewhere between $75 and $200 an hour, just depending on how sophisticated the work is, how quickly you need it, all of those factors. But let's say maybe you think this motion is 10 hours of work and they've got a good 2 weeks to do it. You're willing to pay $100 an hour. So I would price that as $1,000 for that project. One thing very important to note is if you're concerned about pricing on that, When you register for your free account with LawClerk, you're going to be matched up with what's called a dedicated LawClerk advisor. They are essentially your concierge. They are your white glove service to help you navigate the site and solve problems like, how do I price this? Who do I pick? Who's the best freelancer? So when you register for the account, they will reach out shortly to introduce themselves and establish a line of communication. Really lean on them because they're basically your consultant to help make you succeed with LawClerk. They each work with a couple hundred lawyers all across the country, and they see the best practices that other lawyers are doing and the ways they're succeeding. And you can tap into that knowledge and expertise of your advisor to really boost your experience. So don't let this whole flat fee thing throw you for a loop. Your advisor can definitely help you with that, and that's what we're here for. Okay, we're going to give you a rebate code, and I am going to give you one at the end of the program. You'll see a few funny ones I have from before. Next up, you're going to tag the area of law that applies to this motion, okay? And this is really important. So we have upwards of 3,000 freelance lawyers on our site. Obviously, not all of them practice on aviation law or banking law. But if you come in here and you tag that this is a family law matter, and you also tag that it's litigation, notice about this project is going to go out to all of our litigators who have experience in family law. Likewise, you're going to select the project type. So you'll see we have agreements, discovery, pleadings, research, and other. A motion would obviously be a pleading, but you know, keep in mind some of our freelance lawyers, they love to just research and write and draft pleadings. Others want to just do research projects or document review or things like that. So this helps us once again to narrow down the right type of freelancer for you. Next up, you're going to select the skill level. I always tell people pick a 3 or a 4. That way you scare off any newbies so they don't try to apply for your project. And the last step, you have the option to either post the project to the marketplace if this is your first time using LawClerk to get help, or if say this is your 3rd or 4th project and you found someone you like, you can favorite them and add them to what we call a team, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But once you have a team built up, you have the option to send work directly to one of the people on your team. So maybe, you know, pretend this was actually an employment law case and you like Matt, you worked with Matt before, you could ping him and give him the first chance to work on this project. If for some reason he writes back and says, hey, you know, I'm sorry, I'm sick this week, or I'm busy with other deadlines, I can't do the work, you'll have the option to send it to someone else on your team or to the marketplace. Okay, so that's step 1, and I'm taking a long time to talk through these. Really, most lawyers I talk to can get these projects posted in just a few minutes. But screen 2, this is where you're going to give a project description, and we have a few prompts to give you an idea of things to include. Things like documents they'll need to review, issues they'll need to research, about how many hours of work you think it is, all of those kind of good things. You're also going to put in which state law is applicable. If you happen to be a Clio user, we do have an integration with Clio that does a couple of really cool things. Number 1, you can sync this to a Clio matter. So we have some funny ones in here. The Pitt family divorce, haha. What that's going to do is it's going to give you the option to create a task for that project in your Clio account related to the matter. It will export all of the freelancer's time entries directly to the pre-bill for that matter. And then lastly, if you use Clio to store your documents, you can sync documents back and forth between your LawClerk account and Clio account. So if you're not a Clio user, don't worry. We will have more integrations coming. For now, the only one we have is with Clio because that was the one our users were asking for. And you would sync and connect to Clio over here in the menu bar. You can see it's connected right now. On a new account, it would say connect to Clio rather than disconnect. But that looks like. Step 3 of posting a project, I'm not going to advance it there because I don't want to accidentally post it, but step 3 is where you agree to the terms of service, and step 4 is where you input the data that you need for the conflict check for any freelancers that you select. So let's say instead of sending this out to a team, you posted it to the general marketplace. So then you're going to get applications. So this project over here that I'm kind of circling is in a posted phase. So let's go take a peek at what it looks like when you get applicants. So we're going to click View Project Applicants and then come in here, and you can see we've got a number of applicants. We average about 12 applicants per project, just to give you an idea. And one of the ways we help you narrow down the applicants is some sorting features. So location, highest rating, most projects completed. Those are a couple of the ones that we use. Let's go in here and then also here, so you can see on Tasha's profile here, she's included a note here. If you look below the rating scale, she said I've drafted innumerable requests for documents, and I'm skilled at honing them to make sure they are sharp and effective. So the freelancer has the option to include a short message here about why they are uniquely qualified for that specific project. So you can see Tasha left a message, Lisa didn't, Matt did. Let's say you were interested in Tasha, you know, she's highly rated, she's done a lot of projects, you'd come in and look at her profile. And so for each freelancer, they are required to give you a couple of key pieces of data. They're required to provide a resume, required to give a writing sample. And then I think most importantly, beyond this little note they can leave as well, is that they are reviewed and rated for every single project they complete for other lawyers. So our rating scale, when we scroll down here for the project reviews, the rating scales exceeded expectations, met expectations, or did not meet. Over 98.5% of our reviews and ratings come into these two categories, okay? Our goal is met exceeded. The majority of our ratings come in exceeded. It's completely understandable that with a network of thousands and thousands of attorneys, every once in a while something's going to happen, and we'll get one of these did not meet expectations. What I want you to know is if in the unlikely situation that happens to you, we do have a satisfaction guarantee on every single project. So if ever there's a problem, we want to know about it. We want to make it right for you with that satisfaction guarantee. So rest assured, we've got your back. But the good news is that we've got an excellent track record and our freelancers are just doing amazing work. So let's say you read through her reviews, you like Tasha, you could assign her to the project. Or maybe you say, you know what, I like her, but I don't want her on this motion. but I want to keep her in mind for something else. You could add her to that team. Okay, that was what we talked about earlier, was this teams feature. But if you did assign her to the project, that's the moment, the very first moment that we're going to charge your credit card. So if you posted that motion for summary judgment for $1,000, that's the second we're going to charge your credit card. But we're going to hold that money with a company called Braintree. They're a PayPal subsidiary. We're going to hold it in an escrow account with Braintree until you come back and you tell us the work's done and that you're happy with it. If you're not happy with it, then we're going to sort that out. But that's how we want you to know the flow of the money is handled. And then we handle all of the payment processing fees and the tax reporting, the 1099s at the end of the year. So that's the flow on what this looks like. So let's say you've selected your freelance lawyer and you've got an active project in process. So well, here's one with Tasha on an eviction case. So this is what it looks like now. So we give you several options for communication. Okay, you can see on the left side of the screen, we have our communication portal. And this is where you can type messages back and forth. You know, like, okay, they said, let's talk by phone this afternoon. Great, talk to you 3 p.m. or whatever you want to write. I also think it's really important to know that at this point in time, if you click the freelancer's photo, we're going to give you their direct email and direct phone number. Most of our top users routinely email their freelancer or text them or call them. We want you to communicate whatever works best for you. In addition to communicating, there's also a document repository where you can upload documents from Clio if you have that, or other sources. And again, if you want to just email your person a Dropbox link, you could absolutely do that too. The time records link, so this one's new, it doesn't have any time records, but it does show you the status of their work. And then when the project is completed, you get a time card report emailed to you then as well. And also the edit project, this is important. So let's say you start out and you price something at $1,000. And then halfway through the project, the freelancer says, whoa, did you even think about this argument or this issue? And you say, no, I didn't even think about that. And so you're going to add on to the scope of work. You could always add an additional fee. You can always increase the fee up. You can't take it down. So if ever you need to adjust the fee or the deadline, there's flexibility to do those types of things. And again, these are things that your dedicated law clerk advisor is more than happy to help you with as they come up and help answer those questions. Okay, last but not least, so back to the Teams feature, just because that really has been a powerful tool for so many of the attorneys that we work with. You know, this shows how you can go in and you could recruit a team. If you have some really unique practice area and you are not sure if we have freelancers that can help you or not, you could come in and put up a team post to say, hey, I'm looking for attorneys with this many years experience in these types of law doing this type of work, and see who applies. That's a good way for you to find out if there's people out there that can help you before you even post a project and spend $1. So feel free to play with that Teams feature. And once again, your law clerk advisor can help you navigate that. But once you have a few teams built, you know, you can build as many teams as you want. You could have a team by different practice areas. If you're like that woman I mentioned in Wisconsin, who's a general practitioner, Maybe you focus instead on one specific practice area that you're very nuanced in, but you need people that can do things like people that just write really compelling demand letters, people that do really great research, people that just help with discovery, people that just help with certain tasks and skill sets. You could build teams for tasks or skill sets as well. So there's a lot of different ways to put this to work for you, and it's all a part of the system. So that's it in a really quick overview of a product demo. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ping those in here. I'm going to stop the share for just a moment and go back and grab the rest of my PowerPoint. I have a few more things to share with you before our time here is done. Oh gosh, I gotta find it here. So give me just one moment. And I believe we go till 2:40, but we'll probably be done a few minutes early here. Okay, back to the screen share. Okay, so our last couple of points here. So hopefully by now your wheels are turning and you're thinking about ways that you can put freelance lawyers to work for you, and you're convinced, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot to get this help I so desperately need to get more work done. Here's a couple of tips I have to help you succeed. Number one, let go, okay? Get out of your own way. If any of those misperceptions are holding you back about there's no talented freelancers, or it takes too much time to delegate, or you're better off just to do the work yourself, you really need to let go of those, give freelancing a try. My guess is that you'll probably wish you had done it sooner. Number two, plan ahead. And I saw the question come in, I would get to it at the end. I think that's a great question. Plan ahead. I can't emphasize enough that the more time you give yourself and a freelance lawyer more time you give them to complete a project, you're going to be way happier with the results. Yes, I know that things come up in law. Like I said, I'm a lawyer. I'm married to a lawyer. I'm surrounded by lawyers. I know that emergencies come up all the time, but to the greatest extent possible, if you can try to avoid rush jobs, you're going to be much more happy with the results at the end. Number three, find a talented freelancer. I know that LawCLERK is one solution. There are other platforms that have virtual paralegals or appearance counsel. I've heard of lawyers that are going on social media to find help, or Craigslist even. Whatever it is, do your due diligence to make sure the person you're hiring to work with is the right person for the job. Thankfully, like I just showed you, we have tools on our site that allow you to review their resume, writing sample reviews and ratings. You know, if you're trying to find someone on your own outside of that, I would just say, look at maybe their Yelp ratings, Google ratings, make sure, go on the State Bar website, make sure they're really a lawyer. These are basic things you can do to try to make sure you're finding the right person to get this work done for you. Number four, if you have concerns about getting this help and bringing someone into your case, then limit their role. One of the best ways to do this is to only allow the freelance lawyer to help you with the written work, where they are researching, writing things for you that you are then going to review and supervise before it ever goes out the door to the client or the court. So definitely limiting their role is going to be a great solution for you as well. Number five, set clear expectations. Unfortunately, we still don't have any freelance lawyers who also are mind readers. So it's going to be to your advantage and to theirs for you to take the time to establish clear expectations. You know, what do you expect in the final work product? How long do you think it'll take? What's the deadline? Do you have some wiggle room on that deadline or not? Let them know when and how you're available for communication and questions. If you prefer to get on the phone, if you like to Zoom, if you just want emails. All of those things will really help you get through the process together. Now, on the flip side, I think you also need to manage your own expectations. Every once in a while, I talk to a lawyer who says, well, you know, I hired a freelance lawyer and they wrote a motion for me and it was a pretty good motion, but it still took me 45 minutes to review it and edit it myself. And I'm never doing that again. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, no. Okay, here's how it works. If a freelance lawyer can help get you work 80 to 85% of the way done, that's a home run, folks. You're still going to need to spend some of your own valuable time reviewing the work product to finalize it. So manage your own expectations and know that if you get work back from them that's 80, 85% of the way done, that is great. And know that you're going to still be spending some of your own time to get that reviewed. And last but not least, if you've been waiting for a sign to tell you to go for it and give outsourcing a try, there's your sign right over there. Do it now. There's no time like the present to get the help you need, to help your clients, to avoid burnout, to get more revenue coming into your firm. And I think outsourcing is just really a great project. So there's your sign. If you've been waiting for it, it's right there. Just go for it now, okay? Okay, so again, I'm Kristin Tyler. That's my email. If you have one-on-one questions, I would love to connect with you, help you, or even if you want information about other upcoming webinars, I can get that to you. If you need resources, I'm happy to pull those out. And then I'm going to start going through some of these questions that have been coming in. Thank you so much for those of you who are dropping questions. I do also want to invite you to connect with us on social media. This is a great way for us to connect since we can't be in person together for things like the Membo Expo at the San Diego Bar. But we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. We've got a great YouTube channel with a ton of videos. If you're a video person and you like to learn and consume by video, go check that out. And last but not least, I would be remiss not to mention our famous LAWCLERK Shark on Instagram. We have a fun Instagram account at Shark on the Run. Go look it up, Shark on the Run. We have a good time there. Last but not least, if you'll see the bottom of this slide, I put a rebate code. I really appreciate you spending this hour with me today. I know your time is valuable, and I hope that this information was useful. When you sign up for LawClerk, post your first project. On that project, use rebate code SD San Diego Membo 2020. What we're going to do is when you complete your first project of $300 or more, we're going to send you $100 to Amazon. And I know all of us, unfortunately, could use a few more bucks for Amazon right now to get books or sunscreen or office supplies, whatever it may be. So write that down, SD Membo 2020. And I hope you'll take advantage of that because I do really appreciate your time. So, okay, let me go find these questions up here. Couple in the chat and a couple in the Q&A. 1 second. My mouse is not cooperating with me. Again, I never claimed to be a tech expert. Oh, this is from Keith Fisher. We will share the recording so they can upload it to their page. And Keith, again, wanted me to remind everyone that we are a new member benefit partner. There'll be some announcements about that coming up with the member benefits for San Diego Bar members, so definitely check that out. Over on the questions. Okay, Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Lisa asked, do you have freelancers who assist with trial prep? Absolutely. And that is a fantastic way to use us. So we know that when it becomes clear a case is not going to settle and you are headed to trial next week or in 2 weeks, there is suddenly an onslaught of work. Motions in limine, last minute issues that need to be researched, maybe a trial brief for the judge, someone to review and summarize deposition transcripts. I mean, I could go on and on. There's a lot of work. We have a lot of very experienced trial lawyers who do assist with trial prep. And again, that might be a great time where it's right for you to go ahead and build a team to try to find some of those folks ahead of time. That way, when you're caught up in the pressure and the time crunch of preparing for trial, you've got them ready to go. We have got a ton of freelancers who can do work related to trial prep, and that's absolutely a great time where, you know, it works out well to collaborate with freelance lawyers, because you don't want to go hire 4 associates just to go help you for trial. You need that help kind of for a limited run, and that's a great way to use us. So trial prep, absolutely. Okay, another question was, what concerns or biggest pain points do law firms have when they enlist the services of freelancers on these engagements? Okay, so let me think of a couple best practices there. Number one, if you are thinking about wanting to have the flexibility to use freelance lawyers when you believe it's best for a case, what I would encourage you to do is go ahead and build in some language about that, giving you that discretion in your engagement agreement. And we have some language about that in a blog on the website, or again, I can email it to you, ktyler@lawclerk.legal if you want that language. But basically the language just gives you authority and discretion at your decision point about when you're going to use freelance lawyers, and that they're still agreeing to pay the reasonable market rates for those freelance lawyers. So that would be one of the big ones that we hear about folks, is they say, well, do I need another engagement agreement? Do I have to disclose that to the client? As long as the freelance lawyer is working under your direct supervision, you don't have to have express permission from the clients in California, but it's just a best practice to include it in your engagement agreement. Another person asked, they said, I would like to know which legal area or niche is the hottest for firms that are making use of freelance lawyers. Oh my goodness, we see it all. We really do. Horse racing law. Trying to think of some of the other really interesting ones. The biggest, most common areas, and I actually was just looking at a report we ran on this other day, but family, criminal, bankruptcy, any sort of litigation, a solid amount of real estate transactional work, a little bit of estate planning, a lot of immigration, growing IP. We really see it all. And the good news is that with literally thousands and thousands of freelance lawyers, we have people that have all of these broad areas of expertise. Certainly if it was just one area, it would make my job as the marketing person a lot easier, but we see it all, and that's really exciting. Okay, another question. What do you find is a firm or a client's biggest priority when selecting a freelance lawyer? They want to find someone who I think is a professional freelancer. And so I think a lot of our folks do tend to go towards the freelancers on our site who have completed a large number of projects. That shows, number one, that they're committed to a freelance career. They want to build a reputation for themselves as a freelancer, so they're not going to bomb on projects. They got a good track record. I think communication is really important. Even a simple response of got it or on it reassures you as the busy hiring attorney that, okay, they're working on this, they're engaged. You know, if someone goes radio silent, that makes us nervous. So being a really good communicator is really important as well. And then beyond that, they just want to see the expertise, the written product, the writing samples, and we provide those. And certainly after you've worked with someone a few times, you'll get a feel for that. And it's really cool to see how you can build a rapport with a freelance lawyer very quickly. Okay, the last question I see for now, unless there's any more that come in, is it says, do you vet your attorneys before allowing them to take jobs through LawClerk? Oh, there's actually 3 questions here. So do we vet the attorneys? Yes, they have to submit proof of their law school graduation, that they're an attorney in good standing, on top of the resume and writing all those things. So we do require them to do that same selfie identification, and then we verify it through those different channels like we do the hiring attorneys. But by and large, you know, we don't have any sort of algorithm that is going to force you to pick a certain freelancer. We really want to give you the baseline information you need, the resume, writing sample reviews, so that you can pick the right person for you to get that work done. Next question. So as an attorney, the fee for LawClerk does not come from the freelancer's flat fee. Oh, how do we get paid? How does LawClerk get paid? That's a great question. The way it works, so I'm just reading, there's like one more sentence there. So let's say, we'll go back to the same example we've been using. You have a motion for summary judgment and you agree to pay a $1,000 flat fee through LawClerk. LawClerk takes a commission on that, it's 28%. The $720 is what goes to the freelancer. They see that from the first second they see the project. It's very transparent. They know exactly what they're going to get paid. So LawClerk's commission is 28%. Out of that, we do pay all of the payment processing fees with the credit card agency. We also handle the tax reporting. And so that is, you know, some attorneys I know do go in and they recalculate what they're going to offer to pay based on the fact that they know LawClerk's getting 28%. I believe that in almost 3 years of business, we've only had one person ever complain about the 28%. It seems to be a pretty industry standard for gig work like this. I've heard of Uber taking upwards of 40 or 50%. So, and one more question just came in. What might disqualify a freelancer from taking further projects? Great question. So we have very broad authority on the site. We police it. So if there's ever a problem with a law clerk, if they aren't responsive or they do poor work, we have very broad discretion to remove them from our site. It is a privilege, not a right, to be on LawClerk. And so certainly inappropriate behavior, any sort of unprofessional behavior can do that. But we have a very broad discretion. And thankfully, we've only had to use that a few times. But, you know, we did have one attorney once who was very verbally abusive. It was actually a hiring attorney, very verbally abusive to a number of our female freelancers. It was not a one-time incident. And so that did result in that attorney even being removed from the site. So, you know, for the most part, everyone plays nice, does a really good job, works together, but you know, there's going to be a problem child every once in a while, and that's why we keep that discretion. But again, we do have that satisfaction guarantee on every single project. If ever something goes wrong, we're there for you. We've got your back. We're going to do everything we can to make it right, whether it's getting your money back to you, getting someone else to complete the work, sometimes getting someone else to complete the work on our dime. We really are committed to getting you satisfied with the work that you get through our freelance lawyers. So, well, folks, wasn't that a fun hour and almost 10 minutes? Again, I'm Kristin Tyler. I'm going to put my email back up one more time. If you have questions, please reach out. Or again, if you're thinking about giving this a try, please take 3 minutes. Just go ahead and register for your own LawCLERK account right now while you're thinking about it. That will trigger for you to get connected with your own advisor so you can start working hand in hand to put our freelance lawyers to work for you. So if I can be a resource, don't hesitate to reach out, and would love to connect with you on social media as well. So I hope you all enjoy the Membo Expo, and stay tuned for all the upcoming announcements about our member benefit announcement with the San Diego Bar. But for now, I'm going to sign off, and just thank you all so much. I really enjoyed this. Thank you for the interaction, the questions, and I appreciate your time being here. Bye, guys.